One thing I would like to make mention of is that Matthew spoke highly of Enroll, because over the years in his affliction, and you know, he and I spoke almost every day, and he said he thanked God for Anne being there in his life at that time, because he said, Beaver, I would have gone a long time because of the gift the Lord placed in her life, and bringing those blended drinks for him. He said, Beaver, I know that is keeping me. So I just want to publicly thank Anne this morning, and a lot of the Grenadians as well, because I know he would be pleased to know that somebody gave her the thanks on behalf of him this day. So we thank God for that. We started a journey from school. We played soccer together, first division soccer, and he was a very good soccer player. He was a very good soccer player. He played stopper, and at times he did goalkeeping. And when we got together, we always reminisce on those years. In fact, he said, Beaver, I hope we live to see the 50th anniversary so we could go and Grenada together. But God had other plans for him. So we thank God for this day. And as we are about to bring closure and comfort to the bereaved family this morning, I thought it wise to let the word of God speak on that behalf.
So we're starting off the tribute section, and here with me is Stephen and Jackie with Matt's two buttons, so what do you call it? Seed? What do you call it?
Bambino.
Bambino. Or in French, enfant.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for all being here. This means a lot to the family, and we're touched by the outpouring of love and support that we've gotten from all of you. So, my father, Dad, was many things to many people. For us in particular growing up, he was a parent, a guardian, a disciplinarian, our educator, and also our mentor. As a parent, he instilled in us values that helped mold us into the adults that we are today. He saw the potential in us to achieve great success and realize all of our dreams and always aim for excellence. He was a high achiever himself and expected nothing less from us, his children. He was a firm believer in family and kept us connected to all of our relatives, near and far, and some of you are here today. His stories and recollections of days gone by made us feel connected to relatives we hadn't even met, and even closer to those that we had. It was a bond that brought us all together, and he was the glue. As a guardian, he was a fierce advocate for us, even when we would lose faith and enthusiasm in what we were doing. We could always count on him to lift us up and see the light at the end of the tunnel. As a disciplinarian, he taught us to respect ourselves and to understand sense of purpose and self-awareness. Our actions had consequences. Focus and discipline led to achievement and subsequently reward. Disobedience and laziness met with other things. He had little patience for frivolity and excuses. As an educator, he made sure that we strived for excellence and attended the best schools. He would coach us at home and review our homework at times, which we dreaded, and would even quiz us before exams. Those quizzes oftentimes were more nerve-wracking than the exam themselves. There were so many layers to my father's personality, and some of them we only learned through experiences shared by others and some of you. We got to experience later in life adults, some of these as well, particularly his passion for music and dance, which we experienced most at Christmas time, particularly Carnival, Grenada and Trinidad, and Junkanoo here in the Bahamas. Music was his passion, and oftentimes brought him joy and was his therapy. I remember when we lived in Venezuela, I was always the designated DJ for any event that he had, whether it was formal, informal, music was integral. And he and I would sit down for hours going through his albums and selecting which songs I would play.
So as Stephen said, our dad, he loved his calypso, and he always wanted to make sure that we were connected to our roots. So we would always be playing calypso in the car. I remember way back when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and this is when we lived in Venezuela. I used to go to British school. There were no other Caribbean people there except maybe 1 or 2 others, and we had an assignment where we had to make an instrument out of household items, or just items around the garden. And while most kids were making flutes out of bamboo, my dad insisted that I should make a steel drum. It did not sound good, but I still went ahead and did it, and most people had no clue what this instrument was when I brought it to school. So, my dad did everything with enthusiasm. Even a simple card game like Pedro or Romy. I have fond memories of Christmas time when my dad, my Uncle Byron, and my oldest brother Garnet would get together at the card table and just slam the cards on the table, playing Pedro, Romy, and you would just hear these loud noises. You would think somebody had won the lottery, and they had just won a hand in cards, and it was always this competition to see who could be the loudest and most obnoxious winner. And that's just a fond memory I'll never forget. My dad also had a confidence about him that always took people who just met him by surprise. So Mom always used to talk about the first time they met in 1969 when they were new teachers at St. Augustine's College. And she told me that she could not believe that it was his first day at SAC, because at this meeting with all of the administrators, Dad was running the show, telling people what to do, his opinion. She couldn't believe that he was new just like her. And then at the end of giving his opinion, he just said, "That's just a suggestion, take it or leave it." And so shortly afterwards, he approached my mom the same day, she said, with this big grin, this self-satisfied smile, and introduced himself to her and just said, "Hello, my name is Matthew William, what's yours?" And even though she found his overconfidence a little off-putting, he smoothly talked her into going out on a date with him within a few days. And within less than a year, they were married. Now, as many people know, Dad loved to drive, and he loved to play bridge. And people don't know that these are 2 things that my mom actually taught him. Correction, she actually tried to teach him. So, he took over. So I'm sure most of you know this, that Dad was always the first person to offer to give someone a lift. Yes. Now, I was terrified of his driving because he had this way of speeding up and slowing down very quickly. It wasn't just the fast driving, it was this acceleration, deceleration that and it was always funny to see people trying to find ways to not drive with him or get a ride. But a funny story my mom told me about was when she taught him to drive. She showed him the basics, and within a few minutes, he took over and started speeding. That very same day, while he was speeding, a cop pulled them over and could not believe that my dad was the learner and that my mom was the instructor. So he gave him a long lecture about driving carefully and everything. So that's my dad. So dad lived, as most people know, by his own rules. He was one of those people who didn't believe in following silly protocols that didn't make sense. And as kids, we were often mortified by this because he would do things that we didn't think were in keeping with, call it protocol, or I'm forgetting the word.
Protocol.
Protocol. So, and in recent times, sometimes he used to visit me regularly, and I lived in Nautica, and I live in Nautica, which is this gated community, and there's a big sign there saying, no tailgating. They want every visitor to buzz in and come through. And every day I say, Dad, just ring and you can come through, and he would insist on waiting for a car and tailgating in. So, I would be expecting him, and I would be expecting the call at the gate, and then I would just hear this loud banging on my door, and I'd open it, and he'd grin at me saying, I tailgated. And he'd be so proud of himself, and we would go through this ritual every single time. He would be satisfied. I tailgated, and I would tell him off, and I would get exasperated. And one time even he showed up with a security guard, and the security guard said, do you know this man? Because I guess Dad was once again trying to tailgate in, and security guard, decided to escort him to my door to make sure that this was somebody that I knew. And I said, yes, he's my father. And so the guard goes off, and I just glare at him, and he just smiles, and he's like, well, that went pretty well. I got an escort and everything. This worked out. And as annoyed as I am, I think I could do anything to just hear that loud, obnoxious knock on the door, which I probably will not hear again. So, you want to continue?
Yeah. I'll say a little more.
Yeah.
Well, this is more coming to the end. He had, as you know, several illnesses in his last couple of years, and close calls, one that he experienced in Fort Lauderdale with me. And we would always joke that he had 9 lives, because he would always pull through. And even when he was really sick, we were in denial. We weren't ready to accept it. We knew in the past year that his treatment was not working. And we were, for the most part, trying to come to peace with it, but still somewhat in denial, and hope that he would recover. But he would always say to us, listen, I've had a full night, and I have no regrets. I lived my life to the fullest, and you should do the same. Less than 2 months, and this is just an example of who he was, less than 2 months before he passed away, he was on the stage in Bahamar singing one of his favorite songs at his birthday, and hosting his birthday party. So my dad was an amazing, amazing man, amazing father that we are going to miss. And we love you, Dad, and we know you're here.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thinking that I was going to write my own speech. And then I'm like, there's too much years to cover. I know I only look like I'm 12. That's good. But it was too many years to cover in terms of how I met Matt. Matt actually was my homeroom teacher / my French teacher. And when you talk about the stories of the mischief that he got into, I can tell you, I could write a whole book. I remember I was sharing with Stephen and Jackie how Matt said, Sherelle, I'm going to France. And I said, okay, Matt, I got it. He said, now, what do you think I should do when I go to France? I said, listen, say no more. I have the hookup for you. This ex-boyfriend of mine, right? I introduced the two of them. And I said to him, I said, now, when Matt comes, you have to roll out the red carpet for him. I can tell you, I got messages, emails, the whole 9 yards about this trip in France and all the fun that he was having over there and how he went to parts he never even thought existed. And then when he came back to Nassau, he looked at me and he raised his eyebrow. I said, shut up, whatever you all discuss about me, keep it right there. Keep it right there. So at this time, I want to invite Mr. Trevor Sands from Unity Lodge to come up and say a few words.
And special condolences to the family and friends, Brother Matthew. I am the immediate past master of Unity Lodge, of which Brother Matthew William was a long-time member. I first give apologies on behalf of our current master, who, while he was at the service, he couldn't make it here. I first met Brother Matthew shortly after joining Lodge, about 2010, 2011. And I was immediately struck by his distinctive way of speaking. It was very, very powerful, for want of a better word. And also the way he carried himself. He always seemed to have purpose. That was one of the things that I noticed about him first. Later on, I was on a trip to the United States with my significant other, and I got word that he was in hospital. I told her I had a large brother in hospital and I wanted to go visit him. We drove down there to visit, and it turns out they both knew one another. She was one of his students at St. Augustine's. Small world. I gathered because of where he was, he didn't get very many visitors. And he was so elated to have visitors. And we had planned on just spending about a half hour with him, and we ended up spending about 4 hours. And he didn't want us to leave. And from that incident, we got closer. Then we found out that we both shared the same birthday, November 9th. And so every year we would text each other, or we would find each other to wish each other happy birthday. Yes. And unfortunately, I was out of town this past year, and I was unable to celebrate with him this past year. And I did get to text him, and I noticed that he didn't answer me, which was strange, because we stayed in contact even during his more recent illness, and he would tell me about his chemo treatments and all that stuff. And I remember him telling me he took his last one, and like it was said in the obituary, I was under the impression that that was good news. Anyways, Brother Matthew introduced me to Spotlight. Those of you who know. And being an accomplished dancer and musician, I don't know if he owes Sparrow or Sparrow owed him, but he took Good Morning, Mr. Walker to another level. He will be sorely missed by the Lodge Brethren. He will be sorely missed by me as a friend. So on behalf of the officers and members of the Lodge of Unity, and by extension all the English Masons in the Bahamas, we offer our sincerest condolences to the William family and their friends and admirers. Thank you.
We have Professor Roberts from the University of the Bahamas and UWI. We had a standing date, Matt and I and several of our other friends, every time UWI had their culinary team and they had the lunch or the dinner. It used to be a crew of us who used to be, that was one of our standing dates every week, to have lunch or dinner with the UWI team. So, Professor Roberts?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm representing an NGO that is being birthed. And we are birthing an NGO of the Bahamas Association for Mental Health Promotion, Wellness, and Well-Being. I can't think of a couple more fitting. This trophy here actually belongs to the Honorable Alfred Sayers and Mrs. Sayers. But I have another trophy that I am going to be gifting to Morfett and our esteemed colleague who has moved on to another space, because I know he's here among us. I can't think of another example in our society of a gentleman who has promoted mental health and well-being throughout the region. And I'll say that this way. When I was, he was the person who coached me when I was about to go to PAHO WHO as a resident in international health. Many people don't know that, but 20 years ago, I was sent to Washington the same year, actually, as the New York incident. I'll say the New York incident, where the World Trade Center was demolished and some other things happened. But he coached me in Espanol. No hay problemas con eso. Pero una oportunidad más importante. I owe all this to my good colleague, and I would love to, on behalf of the Bahamas Association, an NGO that we are birthing as we speak, to promote mental health and well-being through the region. And I would love to take this to Grenada, love to take it to Jamaica and other places of the region, because mental health and well-being has to first start with the family. And if that's a message that we must all appreciate it, because our pathologies in the region start with that idea of what family is. And if there is one thing that I would love to leave with you today, is this. Our families may be structuring and evolving, but our coupling has just begun. Premarital counseling, marital counseling, and other forms of counseling, rehabilitation counseling, and reproductive health counseling in the age of COVID requires a Matthew Williams kind of orientation. Hay una oportunidad. Morfett and Matthew, on behalf of a birthing association, we would love to acknowledge the role of both of you as a couple in the promotion of mental health and well-being in the region. Thank you so much. All right, so.
We were glad to give Matt his roses before he parted this side of the world for eternity. Matt, you heard Stephen Robinson playing up here. Stephen was my former predecessor as the president of the SAC Alumni Association. And Matt used to get mad with me. I tell you, when we launched our alumni shirt campaign, and he saw somebody got that shirt before he got it. I didn't hear the end of that for about 2 weeks. All diplomatic and everything, but it was so serious till he said, now listen, I'm going to pay my membership dues because I'm a SAC at heart. And he would pay his dues faithfully more than the people who went through SAC, okay? And we were at a memorial service for somebody else that we knew from the music side. And Matt, I bought the shirt there, and I said, Matt, see your shirt right here, the Alumni Association shirt. Matt takes off his shirt and puts on the Alumni Association shirt right then and there. And he said, now I'm dressed for the occasion. I said, I think you are. So right now I'm going to invite Bridget Cooper. Ms. Cooper is saying a word on behalf of UWI.
Thank you so very much for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. And again, I extend my condolences on behalf of UWI, Global Campus, and UB proper to the family on the loss of Mr. William. I'm just going to share a little small story about how I met him and how he has impacted me and what we are doing now at the campus. A while back, I was in search of a job change. And I was sharing with a friend who I was spending some time with at that time. And I said to her, I saw this ad in the paper, something about UWI. I think I'm going to give that a chance, a shot. And she jumped up and she said, oh, I have the perfect person for you to speak to. So I said, okay, that would be interesting. She said, I'm going to hook you up. So she got on the phone and she called Uncle Matt. She called him. And she said, I want to introduce you to somebody. So he said, sure, I will talk with her, give her my number. And so I called him and I said, oh, Mr. Williams. And he said, no, it's Mr. William. Okay, sorry, Mr. William. My name is Bridget Cooper and so told me to give you a call and I just want to find out, you know, what are the possibilities or what is it like, what should I do, what should I consider if I should apply for this position. And so he said, you sound like an intelligent young woman. This job is yours. And I said, oh, really? So he said, right away, I was in an intensive interview, quiz, drill. I know I got a little bit about your experience with him when it was time for tests. And he interviewed me, questions after questions after question. And when he thought I could not answer a question good enough, he said, call me back in 2 days, we'll talk again. And so I called him back, and we went through the whole process again, and he said, you're ready. You got this job, man, you could do it. And so yes, I interviewed, and I got the job, right? And so as soon as I got word, I called him back, and I said, guess what? I got the job. He said, yes, yes, yes. I went into the office, met the staff, and, you know, getting used to the job. And then one day, a knock came to the door. Mr. William is out here to see you. Uninvited. Walked right in, right? And come on in. Well. And he took a file and he dropped it on my desk. He said, you need this file. And I said, really? What is this all about? He said, take a look at it. This belongs to you, and UWI. And I said, okay. So I took the file home and I began to look at it. We were staying in a place where we were paying rent at the time. And I looked at the file and I found this wonderful treasure, where we had owned our own building. Rent-free, just moved in. And so I looked at it, I did some homework and found out that it was legit. So we started the process. We accessed the building, we got in, left the rental building, and we took over the building, and it became our own home, fixed it, decorated, and he came by and he said, now I feel good. This way you're supposed to be. So when you talk about generosity, when you talk about investing into people, when you talk about caring and sharing and just being free with what it is that he had to offer and his advice, I could say, yes, everything you said is absolutely true today. And so I am so grateful for meeting him. He would call me often to check up to see how I'm doing, how the staff is doing. He will ask me about Marvin, he will ask me about Donna, and he will tell me all about the history and his experiences, all of his exploits, all of his journeys, all of his travels, everything that he would have done in UWI. And he has done quite a bit. I am very humbled by the work that he would have done, the road that he would have paved for all of us. You're a former student. He would have done some magnificent work. And so for the short time that I would have known him, I can definitely say he has made an impact. I only can imagine what he has really done for you guys who would have known him much longer than I would have known him, right? Change agent. And so Donna and Marvin and Miss James, they have told me many stories about him, and they truly appreciate the impact that he would have made. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'm so grateful that we're a part of this event and that we're able to share with you the family and friends and colleagues and dancers and everybody else,
Yes,
students.
that's
So
right.
thank you for the opportunity.
You are so welcome. I'd like to call up Lady Ann Roll, Kitty's mom, nutritionist extraordinaire, who I never reached to yet. Lord, I don't like discipline that much, so I'm working on it though, but Kitty, her daughter, is a gem. My second partner in crime, and the three of us would have gone on plenty outings with Matt over the years. And and you came up, maybe 2, 3 times with us. Yes, No, you can't keep up. We couldn't keep up with him. He's a duck man too, So anyway, here's the mic, Mrs. Rowe.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk. So on behalf of my family, as right?
Yes.
Kitty couldn't be here today because she's taking it really hard. But she sends her love to everyone. And on behalf of the Grenadian group, yes, we do have a Grenadian group here. We meet, especially yearly. Our independence, 50th anniversary independence is coming up, so you'll hear more about it. Friends of Grenada, next month. And on behalf of everyone, to Morford, Stephen, Jackie, and the extended family, we just want to bring condolences to you. Matthew was more than, I don't know, there's so much more than I can say. So I didn't want to get too emotional, so I thought I'd put some words down, okay? So we gather here today to celebrate the life and legacy of a truly remarkable individual. So much has been said about him previously, and I'll just concur. He was not just a dear friend to many of us, but a member, a teacher, a connector. He connected me with everyone, as many as he can find, young and old. And I see him as a man for all seasons. Okay? His presence touched the lives of all who had privilege of knowing him, and so many have been attesting to that. He had a profound love for life and was contagious, and sometimes we've got into some deep discussions, and I'll say, Matthew, write your book. And I don't have to write a book. Matthew, write your book. So sometimes I'll say, okay, what chapter are you on today? Because he loves to talk, and he had so much to give, all right? So he had a profound love for life. His enthusiasm every moment, his zest for his music, his dancing, and the unwavering belief in the beauty of the world around him. He just saw the good in everyone, and he just exemplified it. He lived a life to the fullest, and in doing so, he taught us all valuable lessons. Hopefully we can take some lessons from his life today about the power of positivity and the importance of embracing each day as a precious gift. And that's what he'd say to me sometimes. And I'm not too well today, but I'm going to make it. And with your help, I'm here. I had the pleasure of assisting him as a client, and he was a true advocate, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. He recognized the interconnectedness and the impact of food on his body and mind, and strived to find harmony within himself and those around him. He'll often ask people, do you know your metabolic type? Do you know how to eat for your body type? Talk to Anne. So many times I've had a call say, Mr. Williams said to call you, all right? And or he'll say, Anne, take this number. Give this person a call. They really need your help. And that was him. He was always reaching out, ongoing, and then just embracing everyone. His legacy goes on far beyond his personal journey. He lives behind a legacy of love, compassion, a deep appreciation for his life, his music, his singing, his dancing, especially teaching his salsa movements to his dancing students. Even in Grenada, he had my daughter, my niece, up to 2 o'clock in the morning teaching her salsa. So with him and his son gone. So wherever he goes, there's life, there's love, there's fun. Today we had to bid farewell to our dear friend. Let us remember the joy he brought into our lives, and he has brought a lot of joy in our lives. The wisdom he shared in so many areas of his life. His contribution as an educator in this country and in Grenada. As an ambassador for the Venezuelan Grenadian government several years ago, that was mentioned by Jackie and Stephen. So he has paid his dues. He is world class, just not a regular, ordinary man, but he lived an extraordinary life. Let us honor his legacy by embracing the lessons he taught us about living life fully and holistically. Through Matthew, though he may not longer be with us in the physical sense, his spirit lives on in our memories and in the positive impact he made on this world. Let us celebrate his life today by carrying forward his legacy of love, joy, compassion, and holistic living. Rest in peace, Matthew. You will be deeply missed, but your light will forever shine in our hearts. May God grant you eternal rest.
At this outing at Bahama, he introduced me to a lady that's gonna come up here. We've been trying to get her to sing for how much? 2 years now. 2 years. So, and she wouldn't sing. She only sang at his Adios at Spotlight Lounge. That was the only time we heard her sing, and she thought she was surprising me, but I already knew. I didn't say nothing, but one thing about Matthew and the connections, you always met somebody else that you could form either a business networking partnership with or somebody that became a friend. She's become a great friend since meeting her through Matthew. So Brenda McAlpine, let me hear you come up here and do your thing.
The long and winding road that leads to your door will never disappear. I've seen that road before. It always leads me here. Lead me to your door. The wild and windy night that the rain washed away has left a pool of tears, crying for the dead. Why leave me standing here? Let me know the way. Many times I've been alone, and many times I've cried. Anyhow, you'll never know the many ways I've tried, but still they lead me back to the long, winding road. You left me standing here a long, long time ago. Don't leave me waiting here. Lead me to your door. But still they lead me back to the long, winding road. You left me standing here a long, long time ago. Don't keep me waiting here. Lead me to your door.
Mr. Penniman up to speak on behalf of the salsa, Ma tried to get me out of the salsa thing, and as much as I like ballroom dancing, I couldn't take that. I don't like music, but I don't understand what they're saying. So for me, the salsa and the Spanish thing didn't work. Now, if it was in French, yeah, maybe. But hey, this was one of his dance partners, right?
Good afternoon. I met Matthew about 13 years ago when I started taking salsa and ballroom dancing lessons. And he was not the instructor, but he took me in hand and he taught me bachata. He would invite me out. I did not know one step of bachata, and he said to me, "This is easy." And when there were social events, he would invite me out so that I could practice as well. He always said I was his favorite dancer. And it was just magic when we danced together, because we danced together so often and for so many years that we knew each other's moves. But Matthew was far more than a salsa partner to me. Matthew was my friend. Matthew was someone that I could call if I had a question about a relationship. He would offer sound advice. If I had job issues that I needed to discuss, I could call on Matthew. When I was in the market searching for a job and Matthew knew a person who could assist, even though it turned out not to be a match, Matthew made the connection, and that's what he always sought to do. Matthew became a person that many of my family and friends also met Matthew, and so they were equally saddened. Well, not as sad as I am, but he knew my niece. Matthew was someone that I could call on. He met her also through dancing, but he was someone who has picked her up from school. He has taken us out and socialized with us. This is a yard that I'm also extremely familiar with, because nearly every season that passes, Matthew would call and he would say, "Anishka, I have some mangoes for you." If I could not come for them, he would just drop it for me. Or, "Anishka, I have frozen some akis for you." Or he was extremely proud of his pear tree. And they are some really delicious pears, and he would always ensure that during the season that I was never without pears. So Matthew was a friend to me, a confidant, any way that he could assist. So although I met him through dancing, our friendship far transcended dancing. And Matthew, for me, is one of the best friends that I have. Whatever was happening, he included me. We had an annual, I don't know if Andrew is here, but we had an annual Christmas Junkanoo event. And after that annual New Year's Day Junkanoo, attending that, we would always go to the Hilton for our breakfast. And this year I actually, while passing the Hilton, I was quite saddened, and I remember that it's an annual tradition for us. But I know that Matthew, I'm not going to reflect on the sad times, I'm just going to reflect on Matthew and how full of life Matthew was. And he was so full of energy. I wish I had half of his energy. And I had to, multiple times per week, Matthew had somewhere to go, and he would invite me and I'd say, "But I have to work." But he was always such a social creature and just one of the best friends and the best humans that I have known, and I'm just grateful that I've had him in my life for over 10 years. Thank you.
Yeah, Belinda James. Okay, here she is. Yes.
Good afternoon, family and friends. So I'm Belinda. I'm the daughter of Uncle Matthew's elder brother Byron. And for some reason it was really difficult for me to settle down and write a little tribute to Uncle Matthew. And when I analyzed it, I realized it was because I had lost my second daddy. The man whose life was a metaphor for a life fully and well lived. This man who loved life and people so much. How was I really supposed to capture adequately my thoughts about him? A man who in my eyes was always larger than life, a giant among men. My Uncle Matthew was a constant and pivotal force in my life. My father and Uncle Matthew were really close. So as a result of that, I had the joy of growing up with Uncle Matthew and his family, always around. Despite us living in different countries. A holiday with Uncle Matthew as our host was always jam-packed with rich experiences. As a child, I was in awe of him, the worldly diplomat, the entertainer par excellence, the disciplinarian, and the wise teacher. As I grew older, I was privileged to see a different side of Uncle Matthew, the singer, the limer, the life of the party. I have so many wonderful memories of Uncle Matthew. Uncle Matthew singing karaoke on a cruise ship, hosting me at his favorite local watering holes, and lovingly interrogating me about my sons and their pursuits. Some of my favorite Uncle Matthew memories were made during Carnival 2012, when he and his sons Garnet and Stephen joined us in Trinidad for Carnival. And the young people had a hard time keeping up with Uncle Matthew. Picture us in a minivan returning from a party near Maracas Beach on Carnival Friday night, having danced from early that afternoon. The young people were nearly horizontal in their seats, but not Uncle Matthew. He rode home standing on the step of the minivan, loudly singing and swaying to the soca music that the driver was blasting. I don't think Uncle Matthew sat down for that entire ride. I thank God for Uncle Matthew and the lasting impact he had on our lives. In our recent conversations, Uncle Matthew acknowledged repeatedly that he had lived a good life and that he was ready to go whenever the time came. While I'm devastated by his passing, I am comforted by the knowledge that Uncle Matthew lived each day to the fullest, maximizing his talents and bringing joy to those he encountered in his journey here on earth. I will miss you sorely, Uncle Matthew. May you sleep in peace and rise in glory. Thank you.
That's okay. So it's By Your Side by Shadi.
Think I'll leave your side, baby. You know me better than that.
Sing it, girl.
You think I'll leave you down when you're down on your knees. I wouldn't do that. I'll tell you right when you want. much better than you know. When you're lost and you're alone, you can't get back again. I will find you, darling, and I'll bring you home. And if you want to cry, I am here to dry your eyes. And in no time, you'll be fine. You think I leave your side, baby? You know me better than that. You think I leave it down when you're down on your knees? I wouldn't do that. I'll tell you right when you're wrong. And and if only you can see into me. When you're cold, I'll be there. Oh, you're close to me. When you're alone, I'll be there. Oh, you're close to me. When you're cold, I'll be there. Oh, you touch me. When you're cold, I'll be there by your side, baby.
To come up and say a few short words on behalf of the salsa group. And I mean short because, so here you go, Indira. Good afternoon, everyone. As you would have heard, my name is Indira Francis. And Matthew was, again, very dear to me. Sorry, you can't hear me. Okay, my name is Indira. And Matthew was very dear to me, and I am the lady that most people hear about because I would have started a dance movement in the Bahamas called Bahamas Salsa. And when I started this movement 15 years ago, Matthew was my first adult student. And I remember him very vividly coming to me and saying, I don't know who you are, but I know I want to be a part of whatever you're doing. And I thought, at 70, are you kidding me? I said, you want to dance? And he's like, that's all I ever want to do, dance. I want to take lessons, I want to compete with you. And I was like, we're going to Orlando. We're gonna like, have to really work hard. And he's like, I can do that, I can do that. And I was like, at 70? Are you sure? So he's like, no. I want to go with you, I want to support you, I want to be there with you, I want to help you create this movement. And so I thought, okay, he's probably joking, he'll come to one lesson. And then he finally came to every lesson, then he begged me to do lessons every day. Then we had to do dancing after the lessons, and I said, Matthew, hold on now, I need energy for you. I said, this is getting ridiculous. How much dancing you want to do? Well, he wanted to practice every day of the week. And so I said to him, well, I'm gonna have to get you some other girls to help me out because this is a lot. So Matthew ended up actually co-instructing with me a lot of the children. So the movement moved into a lot of kids. And so Matthew danced with 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and he just kept helping me help the movement to grow until we got to more, probably 200 people or more. So Matthew was a really great supporter of me personally, a great supporter of the work that we did as a salsa movement and to try and engage young people, the Defense Force Rangers, children in schools. We did clubs. We did all kinds of people that needed help to relieve stress and just generally help people to be happy. And that smile makes me sad because when I saw that in the church this morning, I said, that is truly how Matthew was, that smile. And that smile, when he was even a diplomat, he would, even if he wanted to say something bad, Matthew wouldn't say anything bad. He would just smile and say, he'd do that grin. And he says, I'm not going to say it. Let's just be positive. Let's just dance. And so everything about Matthew was positive and loving and supportive and friendly, and he brought people together, and he got the best out of us even when we wanted to be not so good, including myself, and he kept me going. And today I want to say sorry to the family. I haven't spent as much time with you as I spent with Matthew. Matthew is my family, and he lived in my house, and he spent a lot of time with my children. Unfortunately, they'll be coming in 2 days, but he spent a lot of time in my house. And so Matthew, I don't want to call him my father because I didn't see Matthew as my father. I saw him as the salsa king. He was and he loved ballroom dancing. He loved the waltz. He loved the tango. He loved just moving around that floor, and he made every partner happy in the dance. That's actually a special thing. A lot of people could dance with other people, but they can't make the other person happy. So we thank you. She's rushing me off the mic. I'm going to say we love Matthew. We have a few Bahamas salsa people here. We pray that you enjoy the next dance. And I feel privileged to be here this afternoon. And I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you.
Yes. They are going to. I'm telling you. They are just awesome. I don't even know what to say to describe them, but here we go.
You hear me? Okay, this dance is for Matthew, and we are making sure it's for Matthew. We don't want the attention to be on us, so we were led to select a song that he sung the last time we were here visiting in the Bahamas. Two of his favorite songs. So we're going to dance the merengue, and he loves to dance. We always dance the merengue together. I would think I'm his merengue partner, okay? Okay. No, not you. Just joking. Yes, so we always enjoy dancing the merengue. So we're going to do that, and at the end we'll do the cha-cha.
From that island, and they say, oh, she's so big. When she just they turn the light, she say, monkey, where you leave? Oh, Lord, good morning, Mr. Walker. Oh, Mr. Walker. Sweet Rosemary. She told me she will marry me. Now I'm tired waiting. I don't ever let she go. Cause if she was a beauty, she like me could get she. Oh Lord, my good morning, Mr. Walker. Oh, Mr. Walker. Sweet Rosemary. She promised she will marry me. Now I'm tired waiting. I'm are tired waiting. Yo soy un hombre sincero, pero me ofrece la mano. Yo soy un hombre sincero, pero me ofrece la mano. Y antes de morir me quiero echar mi beso de lanza. Ba, 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 bam, bam.
And then, are you gonna do it at the end? Okay, great. So Dr. Grace Muftazadi, would you please come up? We are nearing the end of our tribute section. And Madame, ici.
So, hello everyone. Seems as if I'm wrapping up the tributes. We're here celebrating the life of Matthew William, and I put an emphasis on celebrating because that is how Matthew lived his life, like a celebration, and you've heard that many times today. He ignored his weaknesses because for him, they didn't exist. It was as if he lived his life by the following quote: I'm only here to experience, endure, survive, and learn, which he did through his talents and gifts and love of a challenge. He utilized his strengths to the fullest, living life to the maximum and taking pleasure in everything and everyone in a gracious manner. Yet, with a keen sense of awareness of what each one needed. Amazingly, he was able to emerge the highest qualities of his soul for the benefit of others, while enjoying each one's specialities. He could easily adopt whatever stance was needed to bring out the best in others and inspire them. Understanding human relationships, Matthew made friends easily and knew how to sustain them. He listened intently and shared advice that went to the crux of the issue, balancing his ability to listen with the shared joy and appreciation of being with the other person, so making that person feel special. He was generous with his time and equally deeply appreciative of those who assisted him anytime. He once shared that one ought not to confront anyone and reveal their weaknesses, because that devalued the person, and no one liked to be devalued. And so he reiterated to me, don't confront anyone, or you will lose a friend. Because of a love of diverse interests and hobbies such as singing, dancing, sports, bridge, jazz, plus being a lodge member, Matthew moved in many circles and was popular in all of them. The comment that I smilingly hold in my mind about him is that he was famous without being famous. That is, he was well known without the glamour and the glitz of spotlights. But in his world and circles he moved in, he was famous and well loved. It is true that people may have tested his stability, but he passed this test and remained stable. Situations may have tested his constancy, but he passed the test and remained constant. Change, especially that which came through his illness, may have tested his flexibility, but he passed the test and remained flexible. Time weakening his body may have tested his patience, but he passed the test and he remained patient until the end. Final page. Matthew, you created meaning in your world with a clarity that never wavered, regardless of whatever befell you, which is no mean feat. Creating meaning in our lives is one of our greatest challenges. So congratulations for a life which from our perspective was truly well lived. Farewell, Matthew, as you symbolically and accurately left on the first of a new year to commence your life's journey. You will be sorely missed, but wherever you next take birth, you'll be having a whale of a time, brilliantly working through obstacles while being the life of any party. May your journey be deeply blessed and fulfilling. Farewell, dear Matthew.
I'm really happy here. It's only game we play. Looking for words to say. Searching but not finding understanding anywhere. We're lost in a masquerade. Both afraid to say we're just too far away. Yeah. From being close together from the start. You know we try to talk it over, but the words got in the way. We're lost inside this lonely game we play. I'm gonna turn it over to Stephen now. Thank you.
It's an upbeat, happy song, and the young lady Maya performed it a few Fridays ago at Spotlight Lounge. But I'm gonna put a twist on it right now and end on a happy note. This one is Besame Mucho.
And after that, Jackie and Stephen will come up and give thanks.
Matthew's nephew. My mom, Margaret, his sister. And many of you know her. Many of you know my dad, Pluto, Patrick. Of course, this is unplanned. Was not planning on coming up here and saying anything to anyone. But, you know, Uncle Matthew was, of course, very special to us. And I can echo many of the things that Belinda said, you know, all the vacations we spent together, the advice over the years. He was extremely special to our family, our patriarch. We have a big void in our lives. And I remember when I was young here in Nassau, we left Nassau when I was 8. My sister there was 4. Wave your hand, Patricia. Patty Joe, right? So we left Nassau when we were 4 years old. But I remember Uncle Matthew took us shopping. Well, no. Auntie Morford and my mom, Margaret, went shopping with Uncle Matthew, and he told the children, go over with your mothers, right? So he went to do his manly shopping. I remember that because many years later, one of his many visits to Miami, where I ended up living, he took me shopping, and we got to go. He'd lost some weight and he needed some new pants. So he says, "Let's go shopping." So we go to the store, and I'm his shopping assistant. So I'm telling him, "Hey, try." He tries on the pants, and the dressing room comes out, says, "How do these look?" I give him the advice, and he goes back and forth a couple of times. Let's say on the 3rd time, he comes out and says, "What about these pants?" I'm like, "Uncle Matthew, those look a little loose." He was testing me. Those were the pants that he wore in the store. So he was making sure I was paying attention and giving him good advice. So that's my Uncle Matthew story. We love him. We're gonna miss him. And thank you, Uncle Matthew, for all that you've done for us, everyone in this, in your life. You touch a lot of people, even those that aren't here. So we appreciate everything you've done. All right.
We do have one more tribute from Uncle Charlie, who was very special to Dad, and we would love for him to come up and say a few words.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Squires, and right now I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I met Matthew and Morford probably about 25 years ago, 1998. And I was introduced to them by a guy by the name of Esau Roker. Esau was basically the godfather of everybody that I know. And during that time, every year we come down to the Bahamas. We have a timeshare at West Wing, and run 2 weeks. And the only time we ever missed was during the pandemic, like everybody else. But one of the things we found is that Matthew always come to look for us. If Moffat can't come, he would come. And that's one of the things we look for. And one of the things with Matthew is the fact that he knew people, he understood people. And he understood my wife, he understood friends. So whenever Matthew came to us, he came with one thing, a bag of mangoes. Because he knew my wife loved mangoes. So she was happy, and everybody smiled. But the thing I love best about Matthew was he was such a plain person, but he was so smart. One of the things I've said to myself and a few people and my friends is that, this is pushing it, but Matthew basically saved my marriage. 2 weeks ago, my wife and I celebrated our 51st anniversary. And I'd say about 15 years ago, I was planning and my wife was planning to retire. And she wanted to go to Florida. And I wanted to go to North Carolina. And she wanted to go to Florida. She has a sister in Florida, and we have a lot of friends in Florida, whether it's Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, you name it, we have friends there. And that's where she wanted to go. She wanted to get out of the cold in New York. But believe me, friends, I hate Florida. So I'm not going to Florida. And I told her that. And it was a hassle. So in my trip here, again, I talked to Matthew about it because I can always talk to Matthew. And I told him what the problem was. And he listened. And Matthew said to me, "You're going to Florida." I said, "Matthew, are you nuts? I am not going to Florida." He said, "Charlie, listen to me. You're going to Florida." I said, "Matthew, I'm not going to Florida." He said, "I'm not saying you're moving to Florida, but you're going to Florida." And then he explained to me, he said, "You're going to Florida for 2 reasons. One, to keep the peace in the house, and 2, to keep getting a piece." I said, that makes sense. So for the next 2 months when we went back to New York, I went to Florida 3 times. I went to Tampa, I went to St. Pete, we went to Boca Raton, we went to Fort Lauderdale, but I'm not moving. But I kept peace in the house. 4 months later, I called up Matthew and I said, "Matthew, I'm relocating." He said, "Where are you moving to?" I said, "Charlotte." He says, "Okay, we got it." But the thing was that I was so stubborn in the sense that I knew I was not going to Florida. But Matthew, in his wisdom, showed me the light. That I am going to Florida not to move, but to keep the peace. And that worked perfectly. Matthew, everybody knows, love music, like I do. And in the time that I've been here with Matthew, we have gone to almost every music joint and shop in Nassau. Many of them have closed, but we have been there. And I look forward to that, to go out with Matthew almost every night. He'll meet me at Bahama, or we'll go to Spotlight, we'll go to Blue Note. We've gone all over the place. One of the things with Matthew being of Grenadian heritage, and I'm based from Trinidad, was calypso music. He knew all of the old-time calypsos, which I also do. So we always challenge each other as to calypsos and knowing the words. And one of the debates we had was who was the better calypsonian, whether it was Sparrow or whether it was Lord Kitchener. Matthew loves Sparrow. I figure it's because he was Grenadian. I love Lord Kitchener. And I tried to explain to Matthew the difference. A calypsonian is a person who writes their own tunes, and not most of the time, but sometimes write their music. But they wrote their tunes. That's a calypsonian. Sparrow was a calypso singer because he never wrote a tune. So when you're talking about calypsonians, there's no comparison. So Matthew finally understood that, And one of the things too that with Matthew is that why he didn't profess the fact that, in fact, he was a Catholic and he had a deep faith and believed that Jesus Christ was his Lord and Savior. I knew that because we spoke about that. And one of the things I have to pick a bone with Matthew when I meet him upstairs is because of all the years I've known Matthew, I never knew his middle name was Augustine. And the reason I say that is because St. Augustine is my patron saint. And I've always mentioned that to Matthew based on his teachings and his books, because I've read all of them. And one of the things I've said to Matthew, and which the pastor said earlier, that Matthew was not afraid of dying. And that is the gospel of St. Augustine, where he has always preached that you do not fear what you cannot avoid. And you cannot avoid that, so don't fear it. There is nothing to fear. All you have to do is to fear the loss of the soul. And that you can avoid. And Matthew knew that, and the way he's lived his life. And I honestly love Matthew. As far as I'm concerned, Matthew will never die for me, because he will always be in my mind's eye. He will be always on my mind, you know. And I wanted to say to Moffat, always be proud of Matthew. He loved you immensely. I don't know how many times he said it to you, but he has always said it to us when we talk, you know, and he has always been proud of you. And you can take that, and as in Trinidad we have a saying, you can put that in your pipe and smoke it. You know, he definitely, without a doubt, loved you. And to Jackie and Stephen, I want you to do me one favor. Whenever you speak about your dad, smile. Because whenever he spoke about you, he always smiled. Because of the love he had for you. So remember that. If I ever talk about him, I think about him, believe me, I will be smiling. And I thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it. Good evening.
Okay, everyone, that wraps up our memorial / tribute. Want to thank everyone for coming. Special thanks to the Grenadian group, our visitors that have traveled. I think some of them have left already. Well, Robert, you're still there. The others are out there, but yes, we appreciate them for coming. The SAC alumni and staff, our host, Sherelle Cartwright. I don't know where she is, if she's gone. Naomi and Clinton, who were unable to make it, but they were integral and in Dad's life, and we're a part, and we love them, and they've done a lot as well in terms of contributing to the event that we're having today. The Lodge brothers as well, from Unity. Butler's Funeral Home, the UE staff and alumni, and all our friends and family. There are too many of you to name, but we appreciate all of you, and thank you for coming.